taking this story all over the world. I've asked thousands of people that one question, and I've heard every answer that you can imagine. But friends, I have to tell you, as I sat there that day staring at my yellow pad, the very first thing I thought about was our military men and women. And thank you for honoring them in this country this morning, because they give up the opportunity to chase dreams.
Yay!
Friends, I live in airports. 200 days a year I'm in airports. And I see men and women in uniform moving through airports like vapors, invisible to the people they serve, and I think that's tragic, don't you? I have a great friend of mine, his name's Chad. Longtime buddy, he's like a brother. He's also married to a wonderful lady named Lisa. Makes it real easy for me and Chad. Lisa and Lisa, we can't mess that up. Chad's Lisa, the most patriotic human being I've ever known. She sees a man or woman in uniform, she's gonna hug them, love them, thank them, and buy them food if we're anywhere near it. Any Friday night that I'm around, the four of us go out for dinner. We're sitting in a Cracker Barrel one Friday night because we're big spenders and that's where we take our girls.
Tenemos que ser agradecidos con la gente que nos
If you're not
sirve.
familiar with the Cracker Barrel, it's a
Tenemos que
very
ser
fine,
agradecidos en
expensive
este mundo.
restaurant.
Eres un héroe.
And we're sitting there, we're having a great time, and we're laughing, catching up on the week, and sure enough, through the door comes a guy wearing fatigues. The three of us look at each other and just grin. We've seen this movie before, we know how it ends. Sure enough, hostess sits this guy 2 tables over from us. Chad's Lisa's on the move. She goes over and sits down across from this guy and freaks him out completely. This guy starts to push back from the table. She reaches across the table, grabs his hands, and pulls him close. And she says, "Sir, I want to thank you for your service to our country. I want to thank you for what you do for me and my family, and you don't even know who we are. I want to thank you for keeping my boys safe. I have 2 of them. I want to thank you for keeping my dogs safe. I have 2 of them, Shelties. I want to thank you for keeping my husband safe. I have just 1 of those." And it's always in that order. The boys, the dogs, Chad. This guy's wide-eyed and speechless. He doesn't know what to do with it. And she tops it off with her signature move. She said, "Sir, it would be my honor and my privilege to pay for your meal tonight as a small token of appreciation for what you do for me and my family."
Exacto.
This guy had all he could handle. He let go of her hands, he pushed himself back, and he said, "Oh, ma'am, I'm not in the military. I've just been out hunting."
Por eso siempre digo que Dios nos ha puesto en este mundo por algo. Esparzamos rosas en vez de espinas. Ayudemos a
Funniest thing I have ever seen in my life.
ayudémoslas bien, no solamente por
We lost it. We fell out right there in the Cracker Barrel.
Eso es un héroe.
Lisa turned 3 shades of red, came back over to the table, and we did what any good group of friends would do. We beat it into the ground for like 30 minutes. We wore it out. We did the voice and everything. "Oh, ma'am, I'm not in the military. I've just been out hunting." After about 30 minutes, we knew it wasn't going to be a good night for Chad if we didn't knock it off. And he said something to his bride that was powerful. He looked at his Lisa and he said, "Baby, you can never go wrong doing the right thing. You can never go wrong doing the right thing, treating somebody with kindness and respect, not because there's something in it for us, but by virtue of their status as a human being, they've already earned it." Friends, it seems to me we've moved to a place in our world today where everything's a condition. Everything's a transaction, a negotiation. I'll do this for you. If you do this for me, I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine. You can never go wrong doing the right thing. So what? We bought a hunter his meal that night. Big deal. In fact, if you're ever down our way, throw on some hunting clothes and we'll meet you at the Cracker Barrel. I went back to my yellow pad and that one question, begging for an answer. What does a hero look like? That's when I started asking anybody who would listen. I've heard every answer that you could possibly imagine. I heard about the world changers, Mandela, Martin Luther King Jr., Mother Teresa. I heard about our first responders, our police, our fire, our EMTs, doctors and nurses, the healers who put us back together when we're broken. I heard about moms and dads, teachers and coaches. I heard about the iconic brands of our day, companies like Apple, Zappos, Disney. Companies who defy comparison and defy commodity. We pull them out of the pile and we lift them up and we emulate. We want to be like them. We vote with our dollars over and over again to do business with them. I heard about sports heroes. Man, I heard names like Peyton Manning, Michael Jordan, Serena Williams. The great ones, the once-in-a-generation player who comes along and when they step onto the field or walk onto the court, they play a game that most are unfamiliar with. And not only do they play at a high level, they elevate the performance of everyone around them. And throughout this entire conversation, every single human that I've asked the question, what does a hero look like? They've defined heroes as ordinary people who do. It's fascinating that we know the same people. Ordinary people doing extraordinary things. First time I heard it, I wrote it down. It seemed reasonable to me. But I have to tell you, the more I heard it, over and over again, ordinary people doing extraordinary things, the more uncomfortable I became with that answer. You see, what I've learned is that sometimes as we get a little bit older, as we get a little more successful, we start to say things that don't make sense sometimes. Ordinary people doing extraordinary things, it aligns with our humility, but it makes no sense at all. You see, if you buy into that definition of a hero, you have to first convince yourself that you're ordinary in the first place. And I don't think that's how it's drawn up. David, you know it, there's nobody in this room that was put here to do ordinary things. There's not a person walking this planet who was put here to make an ordinary contribution. And yet we run through life saying things like ordinary people doing extraordinary things as if that were the true definition of a hero. I do not think it was drawn up to be that way. In fact, I think you were created to be anything but ordinary. Science tells us the day you were dropped off at the pool, there were 100 million other kids dropped off at the exact same moment. Thank you for getting that. There's some groups I have to show a video and I don't like doing it. Science tells us the day you were dropped off at the pool, 100 million other kids dropped off at the exact same moment. And once you got your bearings, you started making your way through the crowd. Moving past everybody else, you hit your stride like a little Michael Phelps with your cap and goggles on. And you broke through. Literally. You've been competitive your whole life, you didn't even know it. 100 million opportunities for somebody to walk this planet, and it turned out it was you. I don't think there's anything ordinary about that. Created with talents, gifts, and abilities as unique as your fingerprints. And yet somewhere along the way, somebody convinced you that you were ordinary. Talk about tragic. Of all the people that I've talked to, of all the people that I've asked the question, what does a hero look like? There was one person I really wanted to talk to, and that was the 10-year-old version of me. If I could have gotten to that kid and asked him what a hero looks like, he would have raised his hand and said, a hero looks like me. You see, we had a beautiful way of seeing the world when we were kids. Not even the sky was the limit when we were kids, and I had heroes when I was a kid. How many of you had heroes? 26 people, it's brilliant. Oh, I did. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. Oh, I was a kid, but I knew she was something special. And then I grew up and married her. But of all the heroes, I wanted to be Superman. Every little boy wanted to be the Man of Steel. I used to tie a bath towel around my neck, run through the house, jumping off furniture, pretending to fly. Drove my mother crazy. My wife doesn't like it either. I remember one time I had my cape on, and I'm running through the house, and I jumped off the couch, and I flew 3 feet. Climbed the cabinet next to the refrigerator, and I jumped, and I flew 5 feet. I had no fear. I went outside, I climbed the tree next to our garage. I got on the roof of the garage, I walked right to the edge. I looked down at the driveway below, I looked out at the big blue sky. I gave the cape a tug. Sometimes you have to trust the cape. I put my arms out, I closed my eyes, I took a deep breath, and I jumped, and I flew. Straight there. Landed in the driveway, splat. And in one superhuman leap, my mom from the house to the driveway swooped in, picked up her baby boy and dusted me off, checked me for bruises, kissed me right here on the forehead, and then spanked me like I have never been spanked before in my life. And my mom was from the generation of talking spankers. Anybody know these people? Yeah. I told you. It was the only time in her life she had rhythm. And from that moment on, Superman was grounded. And I wanted to talk to that kid. I wanted to ask him one question. When did you forget how to fly?
Yeah.
When did you forget that you had something that nobody else on this planet has? When did you forget that you were put here to use those gifts in the service of others? To move people from where they are to someplace better? When did you forget how to fly? You see, I don't know when it happens. 17, 25, 51. Somewhere along the way, life begins to squeeze that kid out of us.
Por eso no hay
The
que
stress and
olvidar y
pressures
hay que
of doing
seguir
our
ayudando a
work.
las personas.
The stress and pressures of raising our
Alrededor, no
families.
importa.
The stress and
Sean
pressures of this world
buenas,
we
sean
live in
malas, tienes que dar
slowly
lo que
begin
tú
to squeeze
eres.
that kid out of us and our vision begins to narrow. We no longer see the world as it can be. Tragically, we start to see it as it is. And even worse, we no longer see each other as we should be. We start to accept each other as we are. I wanted to talk to that kid. I wanted to know, when did you forget how to fly? You see, that kid had perfect creativity, perfect innovation skills. There were no problems that he and his friends could not solve. There were no politics, no division, no jockeying for position. We used to live for the day when somebody in our neighborhood would buy a washer or dryer. Do you know why? Say it loud and proud. The box! We wanted the box! Why did we want the box? Yeah. It was anything but a box. Anything but a box, and everything that we can imagine it to be: a spaceship, a race car, an army fort, a dollhouse. We would drag that box to the backyard and we would splash our color on that box. We would splash our uniqueness on that box and turn that box into anything but a box. And if we got really lucky, somebody would buy a refrigerator. Jackpot. Now we had a time machine. And it really was a time machine, wasn't it? Because inside that box, time stood still to the heavens and back in a single afternoon inside a stupid cardboard box. But then we grow up. We grow up and that box begins to confine us and conform us. You know, the box that we talk about at work all the time. The one that's so vile we have to think where. See, I told you we say things that don't make sense. Think outside the box. It's about innovation and creativity, but it makes no sense to think outside the box when the game is played where? In the box.
In the box.
You see, the reason we're drawn to certain people, the reason we vote with our dollars to do business with them, is because some have never lost the ability to decorate the box. They show up every day and they splash their uniqueness on that box. They splash their color and their brilliance on that box, and that's why it looks different. We all have a box that we live and do business in. For some, it looks like an office. For some, the cab of an 18-wheeler. For some, a classroom or a kitchen. And the great ones, the ones who are ready for prime time, show up every single day and they splash the best of themselves on that box, and that's why we're drawn to them. That's why we trust them with our money. And here's what I've learned. We've had the definition of a hero wrong this whole time. Heroes are not ordinary people who do extraordinary things. It is in fact just the opposite. Heroes are extraordinary people who choose not to be ordinary. You see, ordinary is a choice. It's a choice, my friends, and it's a choice that far too many people make every single day. It's a choice far too many leaders make. A choice far too many parents make. A choice far too many humans make. They run through life doing ordinary things in ordinary ways, occasionally doing something noteworthy and then shrinking right back to Smallville, content to play below the line with everybody else who wants to be average. Extraordinary people choosing not to be ordinary, that changed everything for me. And it's amazing when you become aware of something, you start to see it everywhere you go. I've been chasing these heroes all over the planet. You see, when you become aware of something, you start to see it everywhere. It's like that new shirt or that new car, the one you didn't think anybody else had until you bought it. And then who had it? Everybody had it. It's called the law of awareness. When I became aware of what our hero really is, I started to see him. I found him in gas stations and grocery stores, drive-thrus and dry cleaners, people who play at a different level than everybody around them. When they show up and do what they do, it looks different, it looks special. I want to tell you a story. I want to tell you a story that I think embodies everything that it means to be a hero. To tell you this story, I need to introduce you to my son. His name is Josh. Now, if you met Josh, he would tell you his name is Josh Brown. He thinks it's hyphenated, all one word. Josh has autism. We've known that since he was a little bitty guy. When Josh was 7 years old, he discovered Walt Disney World. Any Disney fans here?
Ooh.
Thank you. I know they're in the news, but you can still put your hand up. Listen, Disney's a magical place for these kids. Mm-hmm. It's magical for mom and dad, too, because when you go there, your money disappears.
Yeah.
You understand that's the magic. The mouse has 3
Tell me
fingers
about
and a thumb. Listen, you go to Disney, everything you own ends up in Orlando, Florida. When Josh was 7 years old, he discovered the mouse. And if you know anything at all about autism, when these kids get something on their brain, it's the only thing that exists in the whole wide world. Mm-hmm. For 2 years, it's all he could think about. Dad, I want to go to Disney. Dad, please, please, please take me to Disney. We waited until he was 9 years old. We wanted to make sure that he could enjoy the trip, and it wasn't so overwhelming for me. I'm not a good vacation taker. I never have been. Vacationing for me was just a reason to work from somewhere other than the office. Anybody have this problem? Oh, I would come home, family time, sit in my chair staring at a screen, present, but not accounted for. Hard lessons to learn, and many never do. Lisa made me sign a metaphorical contract. She said, Dad, I need you for 8 days. I need you to show up and just be a dad. This is the trip of a lifetime for our son. I signed the metaphorical contract with a simple yes, ma'am. We packed our bags and we made a list. If you know anything at all about autism, you know these kids like everything planned out. No surprises, no guesswork. Lisa's background is accounting and finance. We showed up at Walt Disney World with an Excel spreadsheet. Everything we were going to do was mapped out by the minute. Rides, parks, meet and greets, everything. Any list people in here? Prioritize your list. Color code your list. Make a copy of the list in case you lose the list. You put stuff on your list that you've already done so you can check it off your list. It's none of my business, but you may want to talk to someone. We packed our bags, we made a list. We took off. We arrived in Orlando, Florida, 4 hours ahead of our luggage. Not a big deal, lots to see, lots to do. We had a list, we went exploring. We did a little reconnaissance mission for Josh Brown's big adventure. Back in the room, it's 8:30, the bags finally show up for the trip. We unpack, we settle in, and we go to bed. We're not tired, we're just anxious to get the next day started. Bright and early the next morning, we got up, and I said, Josh Brown, where are we eating breakfast? He said, Dad, we're eating in this hotel, we're gonna ease you into this, no lines, no trams. He's a smart boy, he knows his dad really well. Out the door, down the escalators. Now I'm going to make a confession. I told Lisa that I wouldn't work on this trip. I did not promise her that I wouldn't pay attention to what's happening at Disney. I'm in the people business. My clients are in the people business. I'm at the customer experience mecca of the entire universe. I want to know how they do what they do. How do they draw you in and make you feel special? How do they create magic over and over? How do they get so much money out of your wallet and make you feel good about it? So my radar's up, I'm paying attention. We get down to the restaurant and the hostess greets us with a giant smile. Welcome, Brown family, we're so glad that you're here. We have a table just for you. Now I'm making mental notes. Giant smile, that's a brilliant way to start. Brown family, don't we love the sound of our own name? Table just for us, how special. She takes us to our table, hands us menus, takes 2 steps back and says, Brown family, may I be the first to wish you a magical day. She leaves. Waitress comes over. Waitress has no expression. She actually looks a little bit ticked off. And she comes over and she looks at my wife and she says, can I get you something to drink? And Lisa says, you can, but I need to tell you my son is on a very special diet. Lots he can have and lots that he can't have. And before Lisa could say another word, the waitress put her hand in my wife's face and said, ma'am, I need to stop you right there. I will not be able to take your order. You're going to need to speak to the executive chef. And she disappeared. And now I'm ticked off. I have a boatload of money wrapped up in this trip. I have some expectations. Smiling is one of them. If you could whistle while you work, I'd greatly appreciate that a lot. At the very least, you could hum It's a Small World. And Lisa was looking at me. Lisa knew I was irritated. She leaned over and she said, sweetheart, let me handle this. I don't need Captain Freakout to make an appearance on day one. please keep your mouth shut. And I did. From the back of the restaurant, the executive chef, easy to spot, big white coat, giant Chef Boyardee hat. She comes out and she looks right at Josh Brown and she says, "Good morning, sunshine, how are you?" And Josh lowered his head and he said, "Good morning, he's really shy." She said, "My name is B. I understand someone's on a special diet. How can I help?" And she pulls a notebook out. She starts writing down everything that Lisa says he can have and everything that he can't. Then she started asking questions. You know, the great ones always ask brilliant questions. What's in that? How do you make that? Where do you get that? Most important question, what's his favorite? She gets done and she looks at Josh and says, "Okay, sunshine, what's for breakfast?" "Apple pancakes, please." "Sweetheart, I'm so sorry. I don't have the ingredients. Mom told me how to make them, but I don't have the stuff. How about some bacon and eggs and some special toast just for you?" He nodded. She left. His personality came back and took the rest of our order. We ate. We left. We were satisfied. There's an important point I want to make about being satisfied. I have a great friend of mine. Her name is Kelly Swanson. She says, "Nobody notices normal." I need you to hear this. Nobody notices normal. Nobody notices when the people you serve are satisfied. Nobody notices when the people you serve with are satisfied. Satisfaction is code for ordinary. And yet nearly every organization on the planet chases it like it's gold. Client satisfaction, customer satisfaction, vendor satisfaction, employee satisfaction. Satisfaction makes you like everybody else. Don't you want unpaid spokespeople telling your story better than you ever could? Yes or yes?
Yes.
Don't you want enthusiastic ambassadors evangelizing this brand to the world? Telling them how good you are? Satisfaction, give me a break. Mick Jagger's been looking for it his whole life. He can't find it. Day 2 at Disney. Josh Brown, where are we eating breakfast? He said, "Dad, I want to go see Aunt B." Oop. I looked at Lisa and she said the executive chef, her name was B, B-E-A. He said, "Dad, I want to go see Aunt B." I said, "Brother, we've got a spreadsheet." He said, "Dad, I want to go see Aunt B." Guess where we went? Out the door, down the escalators. Hostess greets us, giant smile. "Welcome back, Brown family. No reservation, no problem. We have a table just for you." I'm sure you do.
Oh, yeah.
Takes us to the exact same table we were at the day before. Guess who's working our section? Yes, Miss Personality, and she still hadn't got the memo. Oh, and listen, I try to have compassion for people. I'm sure she had a lot going on in her life. But in that moment, I'm thinking, surely during onboarding, they would have told her she works at the happiest place on earth. No clue. In fact, she saw that it was us, didn't even come to the table. Stopped in her tracks and went to the back of the restaurant. And from the back of the restaurant, Aunt B, making a beeline out to our table, she said, "Good morning, sunshine," to which I promptly said, "Good morning." She said, "I'm not talking to you." She looked at Josh and said, "Good morning, sunshine. What's for breakfast?" "Apple pancakes, please." "You got it, sweetheart. Coming right up." Well, time out, Aunt B. "Do you remember us from yesterday?" "Yes, sir, I do." "Aunt B, yesterday." "Sir, why are you calling me Aunt B?" It's a fair question. "B, yesterday you didn't have the ingredients." "True. Today you do?" "Yes." "Where did you get them?" "The store." "So you sent someone to the store?" "No, sir. I stopped on my way home last night." Aww. "We have them all over Florida. Anybody can go." I looked at her and I asked her about the dumbest question I've ever asked anybody, and I've asked a lot. I looked at her and I said, "B, why would you do that?" Profound answer. "I thought that's what he wanted." Let me make a note. Give the people we serve what they want or need, whether we have it or not. Ball game. Guess where we ate every day for 8 days? When those apple pancakes shaped like mouse ears were slid under my boy's face, from that day to this, I've never seen him smile the way he smiled that day. When we left, we bought a card. Josh Brown signed it. Mom and Dad put money in it. When we got home, we wrote her bosses a letter and we raved about our experience. You know, there's only 2 times that people talk about you. When you exceed their expectations or miss them completely. And guess when they like to talk about you the most? You miss the mark, you make a mistake, drop the ball. Oh, they're going to tweet that little gem out to the whole world. We bought another car. Josh Brown signed it. Mom and Dad put money in it. We have bought her birthday presents, Christmas. Disney is still costing me a fortune. But isn't it true? We'll pay a premium. We'll pay a premium for somebody who reaches beyond what is required to do the remarkable. You see, in most organizations, let me explain what would have happened. B would have started pointing the finger. She would have looked at leadership and said, why don't you give me the tools I need to serve special needs kids? She would have looked at a colleague or another department and said, you know what, he'd get his act together. If she'd do her job, I could certainly do mine better. She would have looked at the customer and said, why does the customer read the menu? Do you ever get mad at the people you serve?
No.
It's cool, they're not here. Isn't it amazing? Sometimes we get mad at the very people who allow us to pay our own mortgages. You see, we'll pay a premium for a leader, in this case disguised as a pancake maker, who'll raise their hand and say, what can I do? What can I do with what I have to make life better for this family? What can I do to make life better, solve this problem and remove this stress? What can I do to move them from where they are to someplace better? After all, that's all heroes do. They just make life better. You see, we'll pay a premium for that. But in the absence of it, we will be commoditized and compete on price with everybody else. When Josh was 5 years old, we sat in a school conference room. He was 5. Lisa and I were scared young parents. We knew what they were about to tell us, but we had not yet said it out loud. We sat around this gigantic conference room table. Doctors on one side, teachers on the other. And a doctor spoke first. Mr. and Mrs. Brown, your son has autism. You need to ready yourself for the road ahead. It's going to be a steep climb. There are some things you need to understand about Joshua. He's uneducable in many ways. He will not learn like the other kids. He most likely will not graduate high school. If he does, he will get a special education diploma. There'll be an asterisk by his name. Friends, we need to be really careful the vision that we cast for the people in our lives. It has been my experience that people will live up to or down to the vision that you cast for them. It has been my experience that people will live up to or down to the label that we place on them. I looked at my bride and the tears were streaming down her face. The doctor's words echoing in our ears. As a father, I am embarrassed to tell you this. But I immediately started thinking about everything my son wasn't going to do. The life he wasn't going to live. The one that I vicariously wanted to live through him had just vanished. He wasn't going to be the star Little League shortstop like his dad was. He wasn't going to be the star quarterback and captain of the high school football team like his dad was not. And while I sat here having a pity party of one, I looked back and the teardrops were gone. You see, moms get a little something extra. They get something that dads don't get. They've got another gear, another switch. It's called Mama Bear. Y'all familiar with this superhero?
Of course.
Oh, you activate Mama Bear, all you can do is get out of the way. Those teardrops were gone.
That's true.
And then she did what leaders do. She took the storyline that life was trying to give our young life, and she started to rewrite it. She looked at her son and she said, cover your ears, don't you listen to him. His opinion of you does not have to become your destiny. She said, you keep your eyes right here. Mom's got a different plan for your life. And she took that storyline. Listen, I'm amazed at how many people get up every day of their life and they take the storyline that life gives them and they walk it out and make it their truth. They take the storyline that a pandemic gives them, the storyline that a doctor gives them, the storyline that the competition gives them, and they walk it out and they make it real. And they never give one single thought to the fact that the pen was in their hand the entire time.
Whoa. Qué bueno que hablo de eso.
You see, I watched
Qué
her plant
bueno
a
que
seed
habla de
that
eso,
day in that
porque
boy's
eso es
young
lo que uno
mind.
siente. Yo
For 20 years, I've
toda
had
la
the
vida
privilege and the
queriendo proteger a
honor of
mis
watching
hijos.
this leader with the title of mother do her work.
Incluso de sus propios padres.
Friends, when you have a compelling vision for your life, for your work, the people you love, the resources will show up. I've watched as teachers, tutors, guides, mentors, coaches have all flowed into this kid's life one by one, pouring themselves into his young mind, taking him places he could have never gotten to on his own, giving him things he didn't have. And in May of 2016, we were invited to a graduation ceremony. 300 kids would graduate from Gallatin High School, Gallatin, Tennessee. 300 kids. Mom and I got there extra early. We were sitting in the upper deck. And we watched as 300 kids marched in that door. 300 kids. We were only looking for one. And we saw him. 6 feet tall, his cap was crooked. We knew he was ours. And he marched in with his classmates. And before he sat down, he turned and he found his dad. He gave me a nod. And they started calling names. 300 names were called that night. 300, we heard one name the entire night.
Yeah.
Joshua Douglas Brown.
Good.
And when that kid stood up, chill ran down my spine.
Bravo.
He stood up and he put his shoulders back and his chin up. And he started marching to that stage with confidence and purpose, bordering on swagger. As he made his way, halfway there, he grabbed the honors cords that were draped around his neck.
Bravo. No importa lo que la gente diga, ellos tienen que creer en
Walking
ellos.
proud, he made his way.
Lo que importa es tú.
Halfway there, Mom and I, we were standing just off stage. Our cameras were locked and loaded to capture the moment when his foot hit the stage. And when he stepped on that platform, I heard the voice of my father. My father, who used to tell me when I was a boy, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks, all that matters is what you believe.
Exacto.
Doesn't matter what anyone else thinks, all that matters is what you believe.
Exactly.
The doctors didn't think he could learn. The teachers didn't think he would graduate, much less with honors. But they underestimated what he believed, and he believed what he believed because a leader with the title of mother was willing to get down in the ditch and do the work. You see, being the best in the world at what you do isn't easy. If it was, everybody would do it. Facing the headwinds of change and competition isn't easy. If it was, everybody would be good at it. See, leadership and winning, it's not easy. It's not for babies. It's not for the weak. You see, nobody at that table, they weren't there for the late night study